So in today's podcast, we're going to be dealing with the murders of Barry and Honey Sherman that occurred in 2017. All of our information is coming from a book written by Donovan.
Kevin Donovan. He's a
Donovan.
Toronto Star investigative reporter.
Yeah, and all of our opinions are purely alleged and subjective based on the research of this book and just what's publicly available. None of this has been legally confirmed whatsoever. This is all alleged. What they've done with their in the realm of the pharmaceuticals and may have ties to what's been going on in the world for the past 20 years, but that's purely allegedly and nothing's been proven. So yeah, there's no true connection with them. As far as we know, they're just okay billionaires making money selling cheaper drugs.
Like, this is just based on the book, so.
Yep, so
yeah, and
sue
we'll get into
Kevin Donovan, not us, and enjoy today's episode. So we're back. That was what a month-long hiatus?
They don't need to know
On
that.
the podcast?
They don't need to know.
Well, they'll know because they'll see the timestamps. We can't hide from the stamps.
But we can change them.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's not a good trail because people could just use the forever go back machine, the internet thing, and they
Time
could see.
machine?
Yeah, the time machine thing, and
Yeah.
they could see the old timestamps on the previous version of our website. So
Okay.
we'd be busted.
Oh, no.
Being dishonest.
Oh, no.
Because honesty is
The best policy?
sure.
And
So-
the one that nobody seems to use these days.
Of course.
Eh.
Except for
Yeah.
the U.S. military, because they got a UAP task force. And you know what? I got to give it to little Marco Rubio, because he's
Oh,
apparently
God.
been champion. Whoa, my levels are crazy.
Yeah.
He's been pushing real hard to get a lot of transparency on what the fuck the Navy is doing. So there is a UAP task force, so a UFO task force in the Navy. It now has official budgeting in the American bills or whatever, and Marco Rubio was one of the Republican was one of the guys that pushed for that really heavily. And he's trying to get as much information about this program that's been around for at least a few years, probably a decade or two, about UFOs and UAPs in the U.S. Navy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
There was a letter that went out earlier in June that was basically just officially addressing like the three that I showed you. The three.
Yeah.
So there are 3 UFO videos that were confirmed, released by Blink-182, and just confirmed a bunch of times.
I love that it's Blink-182, not Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, they probably knew about it, and they were like, "You need to get out of here. Goodbye." This ridiculous ban for teenagers can't support this as well. But yeah, so aliens might be real. Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested in New England. She wasn't even out of the country.
I didn't know she was in New England.
Yeah, she was. I think she was captured in New Hampshire. So she wasn't hiding out in Israel like a lot of people thought. And yeah, I'm trying to get the levels good. But yeah, so she was just in New Hampshire, just chilling out, and she's officially charged. So hopefully the Prince of England who never sweats. That's his. You've heard about that, right?
Yeah,
It couldn't have been me. I don't sweat. Foolproof, sir. Checkmate.
I love, like, it makes so much sense.
So she came out, and we'll see if she gets suicided as well.
She came out.
Ghislaine?
Yeah.
Her name is basically pronounced that way.
Oh, God. I know, but I just was thinking, I was like, damn, did she become a psychopath because she got bullied so much growing up? Because, you know,
She's like, I'll show you kids. I'm going to create my own Ghislaine.
Oh, God.
It's what it is.
I know.
Yeah,
If I was a madam and my name was Ghislaine,
Yeah,
I mean,
she
it's
created-
meant to be, really. Not to make light of what they did. Because it's
No,
horrible,
what she did
but
is disgusting, but it's
But
certain.
that's just a
It's
amazing
ridiculous. Like,
name.
yeah, I mean, this is like the Larry David joke when he meets the Blacks family, and then his joke is, well, it's like me being called Larry Jew. That's the first episode. You're like, yeah, a little on the nose.
It was Larry David's birthday a couple days ago. Happy
Was it?
birthday, Larry
Yeah.
David.
Oh, did you hear Larry
I
David?
love you.
Larry David got somebody off on like a murder rap.
He got somebody off.
Yes, he got somebody off in the episode where he hired a prostitute to. It's literally
Wait,
the
is an episode a real thing? Wait,
the-
what are you talking
okay,
about?
so in the Seinfeld season, the vehicular fellatio episode.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
or maybe it's
the one with the knife or the box cutter or whatever.
Yeah. Because you know how he like hires a prostitute so he can take the carpool lane to a Dodgers game.
Oh yeah.
And have it. Yeah. So this guy he was arrested for murder.
Wait, in
charged.
real life or
Yes, in real life.
Okay.
And his alibi was I was an extra in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And that they go through all the bloopers, and he just happened to be one of the guys sitting in the same section.
Amazing.
And he got off, and the city had to pay him $320,000 in wrongful arrest.
Wow.
So fuck you, LAPD. That's what happened. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just
what a story.
And it's like, even being in an extra, he just happened to be like literally 4 rows from where Larry's sitting in this scene. Like they packed Dodger Stadium for this. They got like literally.
Shit! So it was in the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's when he brings her in and hands up. I think it's Funkhauser or somebody gets caught with because he had weed for his dad's glaucoma. But yeah, he just not only was he an extra, he was literally on camera like looking at Larry as he's walking down in one of the because they took a couple shots.
So they could like without a doubt.
Yeah, it was like that's me. I have the money from that, and not the best part is that they had to pay a wrongful arrest charge.
I love that.
Which is I don't think it almost ever happens. He was wrongfully charged for murder, in prison for an extended period of time, and then eventually he has the most airtight alibi. I was on a major television show as an extra.
That's amazing.
With 50,000 other people as witnesses.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. That's a good feel good story.
That is a great story.
Yeah, it's both fuck the police and a guy.
Yeah, if anyone's listening to this, absolutely fuck the police. And actually, that is so on brand with the theme of the story that I'm going to be telling as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the murders of who and the what now?
Oh, are you gonna? Do you have any more?
I think I got one more thing, but
yeah,
there was one other thing. So yeah, UFOs. Ghislaine.
I'm gonna call her that now.
Ghislaine, yeah, Ghislaine. What a weird British name. There's something else that happened this week that was pretty insane. I mean, it kind of felt like the whole world was collapsing again for about the 8th time in 8 weeks. Hong Kong. Hong Kong doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, explain it.
So there's 2 parts to the story. So Hong Kong was always fucked regardless. So in the 90s, when I guess Britain relinquished control, because they used to be a British control, they signed a 50-year contract, which allowed them to it's described as a 1 country, 2 systems or 2 states. So they basically have full autonomy. Anonymity, and autonomy.
You got it right the first time.
Autonomy.
Can't believe you still fucking beat me at Scrabble.
Palm.
So fucking salty.
Yep. Beat a PhD student in Scrabble,
so
and I thought Vain could be spelled VEA.
You wrote down vain.
Yeah.
VAIN, as in like I'm so vain. But then you're like, then later you can add an
veins.
S and make it vain.
It's a group of people that are all being
for
vain.
those who do listen to us, please, I would love to hear if you think palm is a word. Because according to Scrabble's official dictionary...
It's just a singular pom-pom.
No, it says it's like otherwise known as a Pomeranian dog. Yeah. I'm like, that's a fucking Pomeranian.
But they didn't give like the full
pom.
definitions of every word. That was just the first thing that they chose. So I still think pom could be a singular pom-pom. Like the cheerleader held one pom.
Because a singular pom-pom is a pom-pom, and 2 pom-poms are pom-poms with an S.
No, but pom-poms are a set. Pom-pom.
No.
Pom-pom. Pom-pom.
No. It's... Yeah, like, so palm, you didn't put pom-pom. You put palm.
Yeah, because I thought it was like 1. You hold a single palm.
No, so you have 1 pom-pom and the other pom-pom, and together they make pom-poms. Okay?
Get the pom-pom.
Anyway.
Anyway.
This episode's just going to be titled pom-poms.
Yeah, pom-poms. Bombs.
If you can't tell, I'm very salty. I'm very salty.
I am the winner of all games. So Hong Kong.
I'm still cute. So
Hong Kong pom pom.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
how I got on here.
about a year ago, because I was actually in Beijing when some of these protests were popping off, and like you could see it all on the screens. So that was about them trying to create some new laws that would basically just speed up the process.
Right.
So when they signed this two-state, one policy thing, they had 50 years. So it should have been run up in the 2040s. And Xi Jinping is just like, fuck these guys, let's speed along. I want this now. And so that's what the protests were about, creating more restrictions to basically speed up this very inevitable process when Hong Kong relinquishes all control and is no longer its own state.
Right.
So what China did this week was pass that law, and Hong Kong has basically no control anymore. They were
So the law that Hong Kong was protesting against last year.
Yeah,
was
it was something like it.
Okay.
The thing is, nobody really knows what the law even is because it was all passed in secret. It was just like, we got this new law now, and Hong Kong, you're completely subservient. Basically, the bones and rubble statement that Xi Jinping made about a year ago or whatever. Yeah, so they have like the right to arrest anybody who's dissenting, basically anyone who's wearing a mask. Great during a pandemic.
Wait, what? What do you mean?
Because you remember the masks, like before the pandemic, it was illegal to wear those in public. It was just illegal to do that. So the protesters were all wearing them as like, that was kind of their solidarity flag.
Okay.
So when the Hong Kong protests were happening about a year ago, you'd wear a mask, and that like literally just the standard.
Right, because I guess it would make sense because of all their like social detecting or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like facial scanning, facial recognition wouldn't work.
Yeah.
If you had a mask on, yeah.
Yeah, and it was also just like a big fuck you to a basic law that was all about cracking down on the protests. So it just became everybody has these.
Yeah.
So you can, if you're wearing a mask in public, you can get arrested, basically be executed
That's dumb,
immediately.
But what about the pandemic?
Yeah, I know. It's just a law to say that.
China, though.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just a law to basically say that like any dissent towards the Chinese government you're fucked. Like it's over. They can.
But, like, can people still wear masks for the pandemic?
No, you
or
can be
what?
arrested for it and disappeared.
But that doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
The pandemic came from China.
I'm sure they're only going to do this in Hong Kong because I saw like literally celebrations in Beijing where people wear masks because
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I was like, that doesn't. I feel like it's a law that they can use against people that they don't like, that they want to arrest. But if the average a law, quote unquote, law-abiding Chinese citizen is wearing it because of the pandemic, like in Wuhan, I can't believe that they would be like.
Oh, but
no.
Yeah, it's meant to just be it's a blank check to arrest anybody.
Yeah.
And they wrote similar things, so they have blank check to basically just arrest or stop any type of government or business action that just detracts from the Chinese government. So anything, basically just they're saying anything even vaguely against them, they can crack down and stop. You have a business that's not doing something that the Chinese government doesn't want, boom, it's over immediately. So Hong Kong's dead. It's over. Now, could there be some crazy, super violent protests after this? Maybe, but it's probably the end. And they did it all in secret, completely not above board. Yeah, great country. Good on. Those are the three rather completely world-altering events this week.
Yeah,
Good.
I wonder what's gonna happen to Ghislaine.
Yeah, that's the most up in the air. Who the fuck knows? Because
maybe she'll kill herself too, quote unquote.
I mean, yeah. Because there's definitely incentive for those FBI agents to create proper, amazing security around her. And
who knows?
But it's also who amongst
the political reach of that whole shit show is very far reaching.
Bill Clinton was definitely fucking young girls. There's no, you can just.
We are all so shocked.
Yeah, but he's confirmed because there's photos of him at Epstein's place, and he's completely denied ever even being there.
Yeah, but I mean, why are we surprised?
Well, of course not. But I'm just saying, that's confirmation. It's not because there were a lot of people that went on his island and probably didn't do anything because he literally had so many fucking people that it's just
or on his list or in his book.
This is that famous book that Chris Tucker is on.
Yeah, I was gonna say. But I was like, you don't know what they're in that book for. It could be other shady things that are not specific to the pedophile ring. Like,
yeah, I don't think all of them are pedophiles.
Yeah,
like
it could be like, I don't know, like illegal gambling rings. Like, who knows? I think it was like a whole shady ass.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just standard white collar technocratic crime because they had the people like Bill Gates
or like
going there.
Money or
Bezos, I'm pretty sure, went there at some point. So anybody big from
Bezos is a lizard. I don't.
Yeah, he just wants to
That would not surprise me if like it came out that he was also a pedophile. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Which is, again, hypothetical. Don't sue me, Jeff Bezos. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You can see a photo of Jeff Bezos' penis if you want to see that. His phone got hacked a few months ago. Yeah. During his like divorce proceedings and shit. Like, you know, he had to give away like $50-60 billion to his wife.
Yeah.
Someone hacked his phone and there were dick pics and stuff that they...
But it's a tiny dick.
I don't know. I don't want to see it. I'm good. I've seen too many random dicks in my life as it is.
Okay.
Probably the worst was in Berlin. There's just some dude pissing full hog out, just looking around at people walking. Because it's not illegal to pee in public in Berlin, at least. It's totally like...
But then where did Nick get stopped?
That was it was Amsterdam.
Oh,
and they obviously are very good with the party culture there. They were not having it. That was just... Oh, God, that was brutal. Friend pulls down an alleyway off of a very major street. I've pissed in public in front of people's houses at least 2 or 3 times that night. He goes down the alleyway. I'm just chilling. Cop car comes by in 2 seconds, pulls over, and... he ended up getting nothing. It was just a warning there, but it was.
That's funny.
Anyways, well, it brings us to our main story.
Yeah.
Peeing in public pools and how.
So, I think in the last episode that we put out, I briefly talked about the Barry and Honey Sherman murders that happened in Toronto in December of 2017.
Yep.
Because. I was talking about how, like, this guy went on Reddit and, like, said that he broke into their home after and, like, blah, 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 and then we determined it was probably trash.
Yeah, some wannabe artist probably recreated a scene from
but then I
murder house.
Yeah, and then I discovered that there is a book written by a Toronto Star journalist.
Come on, gotta get your sources. Do you know when this book came out? What year?
Yeah. I think it came out in 2019.
Okay, so very quick turnaround.
It's Kevin Donovan. And yeah, I think it doesn't have the exact year here, but yeah, he wrote a book on Jian Ghomeshi too. Anyway.
Oh wow.
I would also like to give my personal opinion of this book, which is that it is extremely poorly written.
Yeah. Well, that turnaround, 3 years.
Less than, really.
Yeah,
it's less than 2 years because it was December 2017 and it came out 2019, so like really barely than that.
True. Well.
Anyway, Toronto Star is not personally my pillar of optimal journalism, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Toronto Sun, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the Sun, but it's not great.
I know, the pillar of the Sun.
So, yeah, but it is a really good... Okay, so a couple caveats. The reason I say, A, it's poorly written. B, a lot of the... At least he's forthright about where he gets his sources, and so there's parts like when I'm going to talk about the autopsy, none of the forensic pathologists that conducted the autopsy agreed to be interviewed. None of the cops agreed to be interviewed for the book. So a lot of these things came from quote-unquote external sources that he doesn't name his sources, obviously. So I'm like,
Yeah, that sounds suspect.
But the information in there sounds solid enough and is corroborated enough by a lot of other news sources and other digging that I did. And he interviewed pretty much a lot of the family and friends of the family who helped conduct the who went after and said, fuck the cops, like, we're gonna do our own thing. So even though, I mean, I'm not surprised that Toronto police didn't want to be interviewed, so, like, that's not...
They're busy checking people out of windows.
Yeah, but that is a caveat that I wanted to say, but, like, it's... Oh, yeah, just realized what you said, but... Yeah.
Hey, the people won't chuck themselves out of the windows.
Did you hear about, just as a side note, because it's kind of related, did you hear that Toronto council decided to vote against the 10% deduction on the cop budget?
Yeah, why would they want that? They're the rich ruling class. The police are there to protect them against us.
But it's just hilarious because the LAPD made like more progressive reforms in the past like month, and we can't even reduce 10%.
Oh, come on. This is
Of the
Canada.
budget.
This isn't a racist country. We don't have a history of suppressing
Don't get
people.
me started. I
It's
got
a
into huge
wonderful,
fight with
magical
someone
place
about
for all the immigrants.
it. Anyways, so, whoops, my bad. So, okay, let's get into it. So this is going to be part 1 because it is like a 330-page book. So
Cool.
There's a lot of stuff. A lot of it's repetitive, but anyway, there's a lot. So this episode, I'm going to talk about the finding the body, the murder itself, like the crime scene, and then the first 48 hours, and then pretty much the complete police incompetence, like beyond incompetence that I've ever seen. And I know, like, right now with all the talks about, abolish the police, which, like, heck yeah, I'm about all that. This case really proves, that's not to discount that, like, obviously people of color, like, get shit by the cop. Like, anyway.
Yeah, but this is a rich white family.
Yeah, so if this proves anything, it's that the real cops exist for no one. Like, not even the most powerful couple in Canada get murdered and he can get police competence. So it's like, doesn't matter if you have power or money, I guess. The difference is their families could actually afford a second investigation that, like, nobody else really could. But
they find the PI that was a super cop that was just shit on his entire career.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did.
There's always the super cop. Like almost every, like that was so many, like Picton had a great super cop.
So anyway, so let's get into it. So setting the scene. So December 15th, 2017, that's when their bodies were found. So Kevin writes, it's this part's well written, I have to say, like when he's talking. I have my notes, and then occasionally I will read excerpts like of specific things from the book that are really potent. Cool. But so the way that it happened was they have a cleaning lady, maid, help, like she does a bunch of things, like helps her cook and whatever, and a gardener lady. They arrive at 8:30 a.m. December 15th. Now, to fast forward a little bit, the Barry and Honey, which I mentioned, I think, last time, they were selling their home already. Like, they were going to sell their home, and they had already purchased, I believe, a plot of land in Forest Hill. So their home was, like, more North York, like Bayview, like North Yorkish area. Okay. And Forest Hill is closer to where I lived, like St. Clair West, Midtown, like actually Midtown of Toronto. And so they were gonna like they were gonna build a new home because they had this one since the 80s. Anyway, whatever. So the house had been on the market for 3 weeks already. And this, like, for me, when I read this, I was like, interesting, because if it was on the market, it's probably public, and that's like, if anything, that's a burglar incentive. If burglary
you
gone
could case
wrong,
the joint.
whatever. Yeah, you case the joint, right? So or at least like enough for prying eyes, or somebody could go get into the house who was already planning on murdering them very easily because you're holding viewings.
Oh, you can figure out a lot of things. You can figure out the security system they're running, what type of locks and what type of doors.
Which you're gonna be, it's wild. It's wild. Anyways, so it was on the market. The asking price was $6.9 million. I just wanted to include that for the sheer wealth.
69,100,000.
But the day before, and I felt like this was significant. So the day before, they publicly announced that in some kind of newspaper, I forget which newspaper it was, Barry, this is a quote like of the headline, Barry Sherman, pharma titan, is selling his mansion. And there's like a whole article on it. And it was like out there, super public. So it's like, interesting. Okay. So anyways, back to the ladies that came. They began working on the main floor. And then an iPhone, like, you know, like there's an iPhone ring, whatever. Honey's phone starts ringing. And so the cleaning lady, like, hears it and, like, goes to the bathroom to get it. And she was like, that's weird because and you can like use this. There's a video that I can send you later. Of I think it's Kevin Donovan narrating it on the Toronto Star.
Okay.
Where he like it's actually a really cool video. It's like a blueprint of the place, and it like walks you through this whole scene and like what they think happened and like where the layout of their house is like. But basically, there was like a powder room on the main floor that like nobody really used. Like it was just like if a guest had to go to the bathroom or whatever, but like Honey never used it. And it was ringing in there, and she went to get it. And she didn't think anything of it, but she was like, okay, this is like really weird.
Okay.
And then the cleaning lady goes upstairs to like, you know, do the bed sheets and whatever, and realizes like the master bed had like still been made up. It didn't look like anyone had slept in it.
Okay.
And the place was like, it was pristine. There were no clothes everywhere. And she thought that was weird because usually like on the date that she comes, the bed isn't made, the clothes are everywhere because like, of course they would be, like, you know, rich people. They don't pick up after themselves. They have maids for it.
Yep.
And so she was like, okay, weird, I guess. And then at 10 a.m., okay, so, sorry, just to go back a little bit. Sorry, this is like, because as I was reading the book, I was making notes, and I didn't have time to like restructure them because it would just be next. I'll do that for the next one. But he bounces around like way too much. Like there's no reason for it. It's not like a like edgy fragmentation. So it's like there's like parts that are like split up and then
he's a bad writer.
It's
He
just
he
not
got
great.
a lot of information to
and he just
package
vomited it out there. It's not edited properly. But anyways, so going back to talking about the sale of the house. So there are 2 real estate agents that were taking care of it, and both of them were family friends. Like I think they both knew Honey growing up or whatever. Like they were like super close with them. And so one of them is named Elise. So the other one, Judy, was already in Florida on vacation because I think Hanukkah had already started at this point. They mentioned in the book, and like Christmas is also coming up and stuff.
When you said Hanukkah, I thought it was a person's name. That's how dumb I am. I was like, Hanukkah. That's a weird name.
Oh, God. Okay. So anyway, like, people are already, like, it's literally mid-December, so people are already starting to take vacation.
Yeah.
So one of the real estate agents was already gone. The other was showing a house. So at 10 a.m., Elise arrives, and she's with, like, another agent and their clients. And so as she was touring the clients, she, thank God, she started on the 2 upper floors. So she started like upstairs, then she went down to the main. Yeah, that's where this is going. And then she goes to the main floor. I'm not laughing. It's not. It's just. It's really awful.
It's a national tragedy. Why are you laughing?
And then they go to the main floor, and then they go down to the basement. She notices that there's a home inspection report just lying on the floor in between, like, so the whole house has a spiral staircase near the back-ish that goes through all the floors, all the way down to the basement. So by those spiral stairs, she notices it's just like laying there. It's like splayed out. And she's like, that's super weird. She picks it up, and she goes to the pool. So they had an outdoor and indoor pool. They had an indoor pool in the basement and an outdoor pool. So she goes to the pool that's in the basement, and thank God. So the way it's described in the book, like she went in first, thankfully, and the other agent and the clients are behind her. And she opens the door and she's like, quickly comes back and she's like, I can't really show this right now. And she's like, they're not, we can't show you the rest of the house. And the clients are like very mad. And she's like, you have to leave now. And she like shoos them out.
Okay.
And the reason is, my dear listeners, their bodies were in the pool. Again,
what were they doing swimming at this time? Were they having a nice snooze on top of a pontoon in the pool?
So, yeah. But the weird thing is, Like, okay, I guess
Didn't
I've
say
never
what
found...
happened. What happened to the bodies?
So, okay. No, I'm getting there. It's just like, she didn't think they were dead. And I'm going to describe how they were found. And I'm just like...
She didn't think they were dead?
I mean, first of all... okay, later when I get to the pathology report, you'll find out that they determined that they probably died about 1 or 2 days before they were found.
Okay. Oh, wow.
They were not dead. Like, so I'm just like, I'm sure the dead... I mean, I've never seen a dead body, thank God. Like,
you haven't?
Not in a funeral home. I mean, like, I haven't seen one. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I imagine from all the true crime that I listen and watch and stuff that there should be a smell.
Yeah, it smells like popcorn.
So, anyway, but I'm going to describe the position they were in, and I'm like, I don't know how this lady didn't...
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think... Okay, so actually what she thought was that they were, like, meditating by the edge of the pool. And I mean, I guess the brain... Okay, no, like, psychologically, I'm trying to rationalize it. Like, if you happened upon something that disturbing, I feel like your brain is going to, like, try and go through a few hoops first.
Yeah. So they weren't hanging from the ceiling, right? They were just...
No, they were not. Okay, so they weren't hanging from the ceiling. No, that would be... No, because remember, so the way I described it is like they're... the pool had like a low bar, like a bar around it, and they were seated... I thought they were seated towards the pool, but they were seated away from the pool. So their back was on the railing, and their legs were out, like towards like the concrete. Not to the pool.
Yeah, so they were positioned upright.
Yeah, upright, like they were seated, and they had their, like, anyway, but they had belts around their necks.
As you do.
They, I think Barry's one of his legs was crossed, but Honey wasn't.
Okay.
So it was like a very deliberate positioning is what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
It's not, this becomes significant later, which is why I'm saying that. But anyways, so she calls the paramedics. The paramedics get there. But she also didn't call for like 90 minutes. So she finds the cleaning lady and the maid or whatever and the gardener, and she tells them. Then they call the kids, like one of the kids, and then the kids are like, call the police, and then they call the police. The whole it was like a total of 90 minutes before they called. And then the paramedics came and they were like, yo, they're dead, and then called the cops. They were like, this is a crime scene. However, the important thing to note is the paramedics didn't think they were going to a crime scene. So they they were not preserving the scene. They fucked up everything because they thought that the people...
That's pretty all of this sounds pretty reasonable and fairly above board. Like, it's not like, it's like, oh, I saw Honey and Barry, they were hanging from the ceiling, and I just thought, oh, what a beautiful way to meditate.
Yeah, so, I mean, sure.
Yeah, they've got the money to have Irish maids, that's the key.
Okay. So, they, what was I saying?
Okay, yeah, so.
So they get there, whatever. To backtrack a bit, again, I skipped this part because I was going with the flow, and I was like, these notes are awful, and it's not because of my notes, it's because the book is written atrociously.
It's always the book's fault, isn't it?
No, I'm telling you, it is.
I believe
so, I thought this was interesting, and this will become significant in the next episode when I talk about, like, their background, like, their history, and then potential theories for why, right? So, they were very litigious. They're a very litigious family. They like to sue a lot.
Thank you for explaining to me.
So, yeah, you were looking at me like, I don't know what that means.
What is litigious? I know what litigious means. I'm too litigious. Sure. I'm a litigious gentleman.
So, no, you're not. So, they... Hold on. Because remember, I told you, the house was built custom. It's valued at $6.9 million now, so like $7 million. Mm-hmm. And through... They sued the contractors, and I put this in quotes because I'm like, okay, this sounds like a scheme to get your money back. But they sued the contractors for poor building practices.
So they Donald Trumped.
They pretty much made up their whole house. Like, they spent zero on their house, essentially.
That's how Donald Trump's entire business model works. That's what he does with everything.
He just sues?
he sues, or just never pays, and then whenever he can sue, he sues. Like, it doesn't matter how big, how small. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's that painter guy who ended up voting for him, but it was like, it's literally.
So I thought that was interesting. I was like, I'm gonna write this down because this is interesting. So yeah. Then, I said. Hold on a second. I'm gonna.
Yeah, so we got two rich people. They're not meditating. They're dead next to a pool.
On. I'm gonna.
In a very specific position, belts around their necks. One person's legs are crossed. And they got enemies. They at least have this contracting company.
You have no idea.
Oh, man.
This is the best part of this book, is that it covered a lot of other theories that I had not seen in the media, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. So many different theories.
You know what my number one theory right now is?
What?
It was Bruce MacArthur.
Oh my god, this comes up.
Really?
It actually comes up.
Oh shit! Because I was just joking. Because he was a contractor.
No, stop! Like, this comes up. I mean, that wasn't a theory. I don't think that's a theory. Yeah. Because he went after gay men.
Yeah.
But.
Maybe an exception this time.
But it actually, Bruce MacArthur, the case comes up here.
Oh, that's crazy.
Which is so bizarre.
Bruce MacArthur is probably the most prolific serial killer from Toronto. It has probably 10 to 15 confirmed murders, but I'm just telling you.
I know.
But it could have been going back to the 70s.
It could have been going back, because I think when he was caught, he was, like, in his 60s?
He was in his 60s, and they only have crimes going back 10 years.
Yeah.
But
who knows?
Think about how many missing gay dudes going. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's a side story.
Because I think for more than a decade, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But more than a decade of, like, the gay community had been screaming at Toronto, and he specifically probably got away with it because he always went after like gay people of color, like men who are like Middle Eastern,
very much like the lesser dead or whatever
like
that term
nobody
is.
Their families probably aren't in contact with
this is how like Dahmer got away with it so much, because he primarily went off gay black men and gay Asian men,
and like younger.
Exactly, and like there was not to sidetrack it entirely, but like one of Dahmer's victims fully got away. It was like he was just all fucked up. But it was just like, the cops
because of
like
homophobia.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want to deal with these boys doing their gay stuff now. You go back to whatever you're doing. And this is Milwaukee, so it's basically Canada.
Exactly. So, anyways, this is crazy. I will get into this later as well. But their neighbor across the street saw that the cops were there and everything.
Yep.
So they rush over and they're like, hey, like, we have video cameras.
Yeah.
Do you want to look at them? Like, we can blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And they told the cops immediately. The cops were like, yeah, we'll get back to you. This is the crazy part that I just blew my mind, because Barry Sherman, again, I guess I didn't introduce who the fuck they were. Barry Sherman is the founder of Apotex, which is the biggest generic drug company, not only in Canada, in North America, probably even in the world. Like, Barry, from this book, I learned how sly this man is. Very smart.
Yeah.
But very much somebody who saw opportunities.
Yeah, he's a farmer, bro.
And like went for them.
Yeah.
But he had battles with Israeli generic pharmaceutical companies. That's going to be one of the theories. And
he was Jewish. Just gonna throw that out there, right?
Yeah,
this is a Jewish couple.
He's Jewish, but he was in a legal battle with an Israeli pharmaceutical company, as well as an American one called Nova Farm, I think, or Novo Farm. And he took Apotex was destroying them, like killing them, like by destroying I mean like financially. Let me clarify.
Yeah, just killing other people with opioids, but destroying other people as well.
Like they're big. I thought they were only big in Canada, but they're like internationally one of the biggest generic drug companies. So, where was I going with this? Yeah, they didn't have security cameras. That's what blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck? They did not have any security cameras. And, like, people say they always left their back door unlocked. Sometimes the garage was unlocked. Like, they were just super chill.
Yeah.
Which, like, to me, it blows my mind, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially when you're, like, suing people left, right, and center. Like,
yeah.
it's just insane.
But maybe they just had such an ego. They thought they were so untouchable. Like, I don't know.
Oh, like,
if
no
you're,
one would dare.
Yeah, if you're always winning, like, you're never going to think about someone trying to fuck you over if you have that much of ego.
I guess so.
It's a possible explanation. I think
I
it's
don't
still
know.
pretty
It's
dumb.
still really bizarre.
Yeah, I come from a small town of 5,000 people. We leave our door unlocked all day, but we lock it at night, and we always kept our external doors locked.
Yeah, even my parents want to get security cameras now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Fair enough. No, well, have you seen? I was more thinking my brain's. So Amazon now has like cameras that you can put in every room, so you can just look into that room. It's called Blink or some shit.
None of that
and you'd be like, Alexa,
Remember
show
I
me
told
my
you about
living
Ring?
room.
That Ring security
Oh,
camera that gets
God,
hacked.
yeah,
and all.
yeah, yeah.
No, not that shit. Like CCTV. Like they want CCTV, not like some fucking.
Why do they want that?
Anyway, that's a story for another.
Okay, just why?
No, there's been a lot of break-ins and.
Oh,
in our
fair
area
enough.
and
Anyway.
stuff. Not on our street, but in the area.
Yeah, well, CCTV is not the worst idea.
Yeah, in front of it. So, anyways, back to this. So, I will get to that later. So, the police automatically conclude that Barry strangled his wife and then killed himself. That was the theory. Which,
Proof
again,
with
going
belts.
back to the crime scene, he was deliberately positioned in a way, like, somebody had to position them that way. Like, that your body is not going to do that after you strangle yourself.
You mean cross the legs?
No, like, it was one leg out, one leg crossed over.
Okay. One leg out.
So, like, your ankle on your knee. You know what I mean? Like...
Oh, so he just had,
look at my legs right now.
Yeah, well, this is bad for our audience. This is the visual portion of the podcast. Oh, like that. So, yeah, so one leg completely outstretched normally.
Outstretched.
And then the other one crossed
yeah.
up, so his ankle was on top of his knee.
Yeah. So, like, right now, for dear audience, my right ankle is on my left knee. So, your leg's stretched out, and then, anyway.
Yeah.
So...
Well, it's also...
And they had their coats draped on top of them. Like, unless their ghosts left their body
No,
and
it's
did
impossible.
That.
Like, two reasons why they were murdered or suicided. And so, one, her leg could be crossed, not his, right?
Yeah.
And you can be in an upright position. I know this from, like, JFK's situation specifically because, more in sudden deaths. Like, your body can have this, like, final response, which is kind of a lurch forward, just your brain shutting off. And you kind of, that's why the JFK tape pushes forward. So you could stay upright and kind of huddle like
but
that.
But JFK was shot, not strangulated.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, upon death, your body can do a weird lurch.
Yeah, anyway, I'm just saying the mechanics of...
Yeah, but
anyway,
you're not going to look across
I'll get
the
into
legs.
it. Even the fact, like, I have zero... training in any kind of forensics, and my common sense immediately was like, you cannot strangulate yourself to death in the position that he is in, period.
No.
Like, their bodies were moved, end of story. Like, it's just not possible. So, we're just gonna get right into the autopsy. So, Ontario's chief forensic pathologist was unavailable. That's who they originally wanted to do it.
Okay.
All it says is he's unavailable. Busy, I don't know, whatever. Neither pathologist agreed to be interviewed in this book. Neither the chief, like I said this already, nobody wanted to be interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So, caveat there. But now, the key, this is where I was like, I can't believe this shit. When I was talking about common sense, I have to say, I had a very proud moment reading this book. Because as I was reading it, I immediately had a thought. So I'll explain it, and then I figured it out, and then the private pathologist that they get after had the same conclusion as me, that he'd proven with, like, studies that he published, and I felt really smart because I'm not a forensic pathologist.
Yep.
So the reason that they came to the conclusion that it was murder-suicide is the following. The hyoid, I think that's how you pronounce it. Hyoid bone. Hyoid bone. Maybe you can pull it up because I actually don't know what it looks like. I didn't even Google it. It's supposedly the bone. It's like a bone in your near
neck?
your. Yeah, I guess it's in your neck, but it's like. It's somewhere near your larynx.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right around here.
Yeah.
So it's a bone that's basically probably where, I mean, it's your neck, but basically where you're underneath your
chin. Almost.
Your chin
Yeah.
started of the neck. So if you have an Adam's apple, it's like at the line of an Adam's apple, basically. So right where under chin turns into neck. That's where it would be.
So it wasn't snapped. This is Barry. They looked at Barry first, Barry's body. It wasn't snapped. And usually it snaps in violent strangulation. Like murder.
Yeah.
And so that's what led the pathologist's name is Pickup. Mr. Pickup. I swear to God.
Okay.
This is what led Pickup to conclude that it was suicide. Now, when I initially read that, I was like, okay, but like not necessarily. Like I immediately, my brain, this is where I was very proud of myself, from my very limited knowledge of science and biology and true crime, was like, but they said violent strangulation. Like if somebody was sedated or if they weren't struggling, you would be able to do that and they're not moving without breaking. Like all you need to do is stop them from breathing. That doesn't mean that you're going to like break a bone.
Yeah, you could put a pillow over their face or something, or a plastic bag.
No, because they had ligature marks around their neck. So it was clear that they were suffocated. Not suffocated, they were like, it was, the clinical word I think is, it's like ligature or something like that.
Ligature
like
marks
bound.
are
like it was either like
they're not cuts, but it's like very intense bruising, basically.
Yeah.
Usually from having something tied around. So if
so what I mean is like suffocation would be a pillow on the face, but this was like strangulation, right? Okay. Anyways, the point is, I was like, I'm not buying it. That's really dumb. You're a freaking forensic pathologist. You clearly know more than me, and this was your conclusion. Yeah. Okay. So obviously the family was fucking pissed. Sorry. Another thing. I mean, this is what the forensic pathologist said. The hyoid bone is rarely boing.
Hyoid boing.
Boing is rarely.
No, wait. Boing.
Boing. Boing. Boing. Boing. Boing. Okay. The hyoid bone is rarely broken in suicide strangulation.
Say it again. I still had effects on your voice.
The hyoid bone. Oh God. Boing.
So the hyoid bone breaks on strangulation.
You said it too.
I meant to say it.
Oh. It rarely breaks in suicide strangulation. And the reason for that is that when you... sorry, this is very gruesome. But usually when people hang themselves, they put themselves on a chair, right? And so basically the drop is very low. Like the drop between when... As opposed to like execution hanging, you're usually like the drop is very high and that causes the break.
Yeah, traditional hangman noose is it's a broken neck that you die from.
Yeah.
You don't die from asphyxiation.
Yeah. So, anyways, now the other thing that he noted. So something he also noted, which again, I don't know how he came to the conclusion that he murdered his wife based on this.
Yeah.
Barry is in poor health. Like, he had lots of fat. Again, I'm not judging the man. He's dead.
He had lots of fat?
Yeah, literally, the book said he had lots of fat and very little muscle. That's what I read.
That's such a weird way to describe
obesity.
I
described it kinder than they did here.
How did they describe it?
Let me see if I can find it.
This boy was full of fat and lean of muscle.
Hold on.
God. Canada really is just Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Really is.
It's just, we got the hippies, we got the French ones, but it's all I guess our French are a lot skinnier than the rest of... Quebec's a skinnier province than the rest of Canada. It's a pretty skinny province. Yeah.
Okay, this is exactly it. He said, the well-known billionaire and founder of Apotex had not taken care of himself. A poor diet and lack of exercise were evident in pockets of fat and little muscle tone. They said pockets of fat, and I was like, I'm not writing that. That's fucking nasty and weird, and I'm not writing that, so.
I got a pocket of fat right here for you, honey.
Anyway, the point is, this is key because it doesn't look or sound like he'd be strong enough to overpower his wife and drag her down a spiral staircase. Because it was very clear that Honey's body had been moved.
Yeah, well, that was my question.
And she was struck on the face.
Okay. Yeah.
So she was struck. She had bruising and injury to her face. They don't go into describe it in very much detail, but he had nothing. So they were like, oh, he hit her and like their theory was that he hit her, he dragged her down the stairs, and all their family friends were like, literally, that's not possible. And they all joke. They're like, we used to joke that if either of them were going to kill each other, she'd kill him because it definitely wouldn't be the other way around. Like, it was just like a joke that they had. So, I know. I'm like,
that's a great joke.
I know. I'm like, I don't know about that, but whatever.
Volumes.
So, and both of them, both Barry and Honey, had abrasions and ligature marks around their wrists, common with zip ties. So they had been bound.
Yep.
And yet, after this autopsy, they still declared it a murder-suicide. Why the fuck would he bound both him and his wife with zip ties? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he was bound with zip ties.
Yeah, and so was she.
Yeah.
So, what?
Now, I've already got a pretty, like, I mean, this is obviously not suicide.
No, of course it's not. That's
Yeah.
my point. Of course it's not.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Honey been struck in the face. Her hyoid bone was also intact.
Yeah, so likely not an extreme violent hanging asphyxiation.
And then both were conclusively found to be dead from strangulation. And it was likely done by the belts around their neck.
No, it wasn't.
So the cops, after this autopsy, leaked information to the Toronto Sun that
fuck off,
and
Toronto PD.
other media that it was a murder-suicide. So they already ran with that theory. Now the problem is they also went with it and had tunnel vision. Like they were like, "This is it. We're not changing our fucking minds."
Police department. No, they wouldn't do that.
Never in the existence of cops.
Christ.
So when obviously the family finds this out, because the cops don't tell them that. They read that in the newspaper. They're like, what the fuck? So they're pissed. They go insane. They're like, we're hiring people immediately. We're not dealing with this, which, fair enough. You're billionaires. You can afford it. Why not? So they call their lawyers and they set up another independent autopsy. And this took a while because every forensic pathologist that they called was either out of the country already because of holiday, they took time off.
Yeah, this is
whatever.
right before Christmas and Hanukkah.
Yeah, it's literally it's in the middle,
December 15th.
Yeah, I think it was the second day of Hanukkah or something that they said because. Yeah. So it's literally the holidays. It's the body was found December 17th. So by the time the autopsies, we're already probably December 20th at this point, give or take, right? Sure. So we're 4 days out of Christmas. So they finally got Toronto's former chief forensic pathologist named Chiasson, I think. That's how I'm going to...
Chiasson?
That's how I'm going to pronounce it. It's
okay.
Chiasson.
What background is this person?
I have no idea.
Weird ass fucking...
I don't know.
That could be either Dutch or Vietnamese, and you'd never know the difference.
No, it's not Vietnamese. I was going to go with Italian. But anyway.
Italian? I don't know. I think Dutch always have these...
Google it? I'm so curious.
Yeah, the Dutch always have these really weird sleeper names. We watched Starship Troopers today. Great piece of cinematic. Paul Verhoeven. What was the name?
Chiasson. N. Yeah.
Oh, this is Eastern European.
Oh.
I'm mostly making that guess because a hockey player came up immediately, and yeah, they're not Canadian; they're Eastern European.
French.
It's French, way off. French Canadian.
Swiss Italian on the Swiss Italian border. Okay.
Yeah, but Switzerland's like a melting pot of
anyway,
the fascists of Europe.
Point is, whatever. So he agreed to do it, and they invited the cops. Like, they told the cops they were doing this. It wasn't like they weren't going to do this. They also hired a bunch of former cops, Toronto former cops, experts, all this. Like,
they
were
work as PIs and all that.
Well, what they wanted, no, they are not PIs, but they called them up and like.
But, no, I said to work as PIs.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry.
They might
Yeah.
not have a license,
I'll get into this, but they, unsurprisingly, given the power they have, were extremely well connected. They, like, Trudeau had dinner at their house all the time, like Justin Trudeau. So.
What Trudeau?
So.
Pierre Elliott.
So point is, they clearly like could call up anyone and make it happen. Yet for some reason, the Toronto cops just were not having it.
Yeah, that's I mean, I'm sure this is going to come up, but it's so weird to me that, like, these are, and for any American audience listeners, we also have our own oligarchs that are incredibly, like, there's
so they are probably the most powerful couple in Canada.
The Canadian billionaires are insane. They're just as powerful as American billionaires. And actually, some of ours are even better connected because...
Oh, we're going to get into the Mossad as well. It's like, this is where this goes, so...
Yeah, well, but it's like similar to how Ireland has their whole scheme of being this massive tax loophole. Like, we are the OG country for that shit.
Yeah, but also, like, anyway, what I'm saying is they're very powerful, and yet, even the cops were like, fuck it.
I think it was just like, if it was Christmas time blues, and they were just like, I want to go home.
I'm just going to get into it because it came up now.
Yeah.
Basically, the cops' excuse, and I'll get into it in more detail, is that they were busy working on the Bruce MacArthur case and they didn't have enough. And I Googled it. I Googled it because I was curious. I was like, is this bullshit? But they arrested him literally the next month. They arrested him January, I believe, 18th or something, 2018. Yeah. And this happened December. But I was like, you're telling me you don't have fucking... First of all, the reason that pissed me off is because they did an abysmal job with that case as well. So I was like, this is bullshit times 2.
They didn't... So Bruce MacArthur, I don't know, fucking want to call him like the butcher of fucking Young... Or what street is that? Goddamn. Not
Church
Young
and Wellesley.
Yeah, like the butcher of Church Street, basically. Running amok for 10 years. Like, I remember... You know, like, even me, I don't have a ton of gay friends, but I remember seeing articles and shit about this 6-7 months before he was arrested, being like, there's a serial killer.
No, but don't you know, I mean, again, I don't want to go too off track, but it's significant because there was and I know this professor, there was a very smart, I think she was a PhD student at the time, who was researching serial killers at U of T.
Yeah.
She's a brilliant psychologist, and went to the cops multiple times for years and told them, I've done an analysis. All these missing gay men have been murdered. There is a serial killer. There is a pattern. Like, she laid it all out for them and was like, there is a serial killer in Toronto killing gay men. And they didn't listen. So I was like, don't give me this fucking bullshit excuse. Like,
they took... It wasn't until massive public outcry and super cops coming to them to be like, you got a serial killer. But it's like, that's all the police department.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was their excuse, which is absolute bullshit. Christ. So I'm gonna keep going and try and plow through this. So they call them, they invite them, they don't want to come. They're like, okay, fuck you then. But the guy who did the first autopsy did come, and it was vital that he be there anyway because he has to like explain what he did and his analysis, and they can have a conversation about it. So. The thing about the hyoid bone.
Yep.
20 years ago, Chiasson, the guy who's doing the autopsy now, him and other pathologists determined, they wrote a study on it, wrote a paper on it, that only 1/3 of homicide strangulations had a broken hyoid bone.
Yeah.
Only 1/3. And this was 20 years ago. So, like, hello, are you fucking moron? Like, how did you not learn this when you were in forensic pathology school? Like,
Yeah.
So, they also determined that this was due to the amount of pressure. And this is when I was like, Lilo, you're a fucking genius. I'm so proud of you. They determined that this is due to the amount of pressure applied or needed. It's less likely to break with soft ligatures like a belt. So, yeah.
Okay.
What?
No, I'm just saying, like, no, this whole fucking thing is just, no, like, the forensic work is
Yeah, I'm like, dude,
really,
I literally
really
have,
bad.
like, zero experience in forensic.
Yeah.
Zero. And I was like, common sense, like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, I don't understand.
Belts are soft, so it couldn't have been that.
Like, anyway. So, he determines that it's homicide by persons unknown. He's like, no. That plus the zip ties and the way the bodies were, like, left and everything. He's like, it's a murder. Like, no, he couldn't have done it. Now, we get into the first 48 hours. The biggest issue, like, apart from this pathology, is that the cops fail to follow up on many tips and leads. Like, there are countless stories, and these people were interviewed by the author. The head of security or whatever at Apotex, he was like a really nice guy. He was really sad when he found out Barry died. And he said, he was like, Barry was so nice to me. He treated me like an equal. He would, like, you know, eat sandwiches and drink juice with me and stuff like that. Like, he was just like a nice guy.
He drank juice with me.
Yeah. No, but he immediately was like, okay, I'm going to go into the security cameras. Like, he took the initiative as soon as he found out that they were murdered.
Yeah.
He went to the security cameras, like, from the Apotex system, which is, like, top-notch security system, because they literally have billions of dollars worth of pharmaceutical material that, like, you could make painkillers, opioids, and lots of other things. So he wanted to see if they were, like, if Barry was followed on his way out or something like that. Like, he just wanted to see if there were suspicious people around. He just wanted to look.
Cover the previous week of
So he gets, exactly, I think he
pretty...
looks back 2 weeks or something and gets all the footage.
Yeah.
He calls the cops and he tells them that he has it ready and he transfers it and, like, he does all this stuff. And first of all, they didn't show up. Sorry, when he called, they didn't show up till past the 48-hour mark. And they did the same thing with the neighbors that called. They didn't come till, like, a week later. Yeah. Or, like, 3 days later.
And obviously any true crime fan knows that the first 48 are the most important. Generally, that rule is more important for just random murders on the street because people just fuck off for a little while, but...
But especially if it's a hitman. If it's a hitman, you're screwed. Like, either way, you're screwed. But you're screwed.
In this situation, you're probably fucked regardless. But, like, these cops are not doing the basic due diligence.
Exactly.
For 48 hours.
That's why this chapter was called the first 48. Because it's like
the most ubiquitous true crime cop show that isn't just trying to provoke and berate people like Cops. Pretty awesome. The Cops got taken off the air. That's dope.
Oh, the show?
Yeah, it's not a thing anymore
because
of all the way they would incite crimes.
Anyways, so, so, like, the family, like, the neighbors, and it wasn't just them. There was, like, another family as well. Like, everybody had security on that street. And they called multiple times, and they would follow up. They would literally take the initiative. Yeah. They wouldn't hear from the cops for a couple days and be like, what the fuck? And they would call them and be like, hey, are you guys sending anybody? Like, our security system automatically overrides the feed every week. So we need to know if you're going to come look at it or not.
God fucking damn it. Also, what kind of a shit security system
I know, when I read that, I was like...
on a weekly basis?
Yeah, and I was like, can't you just copy it over? Like, that's really...
I'm literally my database... I'm a fucking developer. My database backup strategy is you keep hard copies of the previous month, and then after a month you keep like every 2 weeks. Then 1 month ago
anyway,
security system should be a little bit more comprehensive.
But anyways, the point is the cops didn't show up, and then so they finally show up 48 hours whatever, and then Dawson, who's a security guy, he gives them the footage and he's like, here, like, I've got it all, like, blah blah blah, like, here you go. And over a month, almost 2 months later, they call him and they're like, oh, we're trying to look at the footage and we can't because it's in a different format. And he's like, you're fucking telling me this now? Like, what have you been doing for the past 2 months? And at this point, Bruce MacArthur has been arrested, so I don't know what the fuck their excuse was this time.
You needed more Tim Hortons donuts.
So they come back and he like redoes it for them, and he's like, I can't believe this. Like, this is useless at this point. Like, why do you even want it? But like, here you go.
Oh yeah, I know it's been a little while since we came, but we wanted to see those tapes that we were looking at. Got a little bowl of the Timmy's donuts.
So
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. And then,
so to recap, this is going to be, we might have seemed pretty light on this family so far, given that they're very rich and like, well, clearly of all the like misuses and fuck ups of cops, like why focus on these really rich people? And this is completely speculative. Like, what's the conjecture? No, what's the term?
what are you looking for?
Hypothetical. What the fuck? What the fuck's the legal term to literally just like, this is speculation, this is not legally true?
Allegation?
Sorry?
Alleged? Allegation?
Yeah, this is a purely like not even allegedly, but just like an assumption. So you have these very wealthy people that make money selling off-brand pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's just your opinion, like our opinion.
Yeah. So there's no way that a insignificant amount of that is in like opioids and very horrible drugs that probably ruin people's lives. So, maybe these people kind of had some type of karma coming their way.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot written about how they're philanthropists, but everyone calls rich people that. Yeah, exactly. Everybody
Philanthropy is just the way that rich people justify all their horrendous bullshit.
In an effort to, protect ourselves legally, everything that I will say that will critique the family is from this book. Yep. It's stuff that came out in interviews that he has sourced, Kevin Donovan, and I'm just reporting on this, whether it's fact or not. This is not my own research, and this is not, like, in terms of my own research, like, I'm referencing a book, but there is stuff, which I'll get into next week, about how, like I said, that they were very litigious, they like to sue, but also the way that they treated Barry treated his extended family. Because it gets spicy.
Okay. Because, frankly, white labels are the better part of that.
Yeah, and he does,
Yeah. White label drugs are the best part of the pharmaceutical industry.
And his whole thing, his whole shtick was, because that, when he created that hadn't really taken off yet, and it hadn't really taken off in Canada. And he was a very smart guy. Barry Sherman was very smart, went to U of T, and he discovered, like, basically all I'm trying to say is, like, I will acknowledge that his whole purpose when he started was to create cheaper, more accessible drugs for people. So I'll say that.
He might not be a piece of shit. He might be a fucking total monster.
But the man's dead. He's not here to defend himself. So.
Yeah, so let children please don't sue us.
Yeah, that basically, like, but for real, like, we aren't doing anything. So, where was I?
So, we're going to get into the wrap up of this episode.
Give me a second.
Just doing an Archer style. It's an animated show. It's pretty good for a while.
Yeah, no, it's like the same guy.
Yeah, we should watch that episode sometime because it has John Benjamin, and it's like he thinks he's Bob, and he's like making burgers.
I love it. It's so really much. Funny. Okay. Okay. So to wrap it up. Oh God, I forgot about this. So Chiasson's findings from the second autopsy would not be considered by the Toronto police for almost 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
So this is PI information.
No, this is the former chief forensic pathologist of the Toronto police. It's not like they don't know the fucking guy.
This isn't the PI investigation.
It is a PI investigation, but they hired a former, like, Ontario's chief forensic pathologist. He was the former one. Chiasson used to be.
Yeah,
so it's not like nobody in the police force knows who the fuck this guy is.
So in a province of 13 million people, this was the chief forensic pathologist.
For a very long time, and had only recently
very
stepped down.
Prestigious.
So, and so he goes and he's like, guys, you fucked up. Here's our new results. Whatever. Greenspan is their lawyer. I don't know.
Greenspan's like he's a politician in America.
Greenspan and his team offered information to the detectives. The police showed no interest until a Toronto Star story outlined the findings, prompted them to contact Chiasson. So what happened was eventually, and Kevin Donovan, who's from Toronto Star, was on the team. I think he was like reporting on this and then decided to write a book on it.
Yeah.
So I think him and his team or whatever at the Toronto Star got this information. I think the family came to them and was like, can you just, like, we don't know how to fucking, what is it? The phrase? Force their hand in any other way, like the cops. Like, they don't know how to force their hand, so maybe this will. And so I think through Kenneth, I'm so wrong. It wasn't the family. He did his own research. Like the Toronto Star, I will have to say, did really good investigative reporting. They pieced it together and were like, this is not fucking murder-suicide. This is murder. Yeah. And they outlined those findings. And then they were like, oh, oopsies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic cop incompetence.
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, I guess in short, I think I'll leave it there. The only thing is that after that, the cops started subpoenaing and like looking into their iPhone, like their phone records, flight records, health records, all this stuff of like Barry and Honey. But like this is ages later. Like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
And it would be well over a month before one of the police applications identified both Barry and Honey as murder victims. So it like took them fucking forever to get to that conclusion. And also to reiterate, again, the book is repetitive. This is like 5 pages later. Yep. But they were well aware that Dr. Chiasson, a veteran forensic pathologist, fucking chief forensic pathologist, had conducted a second set, yet for 5 weeks they did not contact him to determine his findings and conclusions. So one page he says 6, the other says 5, but whatever. Oh, this is very significant. In the case of samples and fingerprints taken from the death scene, there was no attempt for many months to obtain DNA samples and fingerprints from people who had recently seen the Shermans or been to their house. Because you have to, like, it's process of elimination. Everybody knows this. Anyone who likes true crime knows this. Like, her trainer, the maid, the nanny, like, everybody should have had their fingerprints. Gotten their DNA just to be like, okay, if we find any DNA at the crime scene, it's not these people's. Like, they're just, like, whatever,
I mean, DNA and fingerprints are their importance is definitely overemphasized, but it's such it's still a very useful thing to be like, well, we can probably confirm.
Like, this is unidentified DNA. Like,
this is completely, I mean,
especially because they had again, going back to their house being for sale, like, you should be getting everyone who's like seen the house, like blah blah blah, like just
that's my point. Like the importance of it isn't that massive to prove something did, but it's very much like a way to prove something didn't happen, like,
or also just to find possible suspects. Like in this case, we don't know like who it is or what the deal is. So like, it's just.
Yeah, because, I mean, if I'm doing this investigation, I'm going to look at... I mean, it just literally, we've gone through every step and they've done the exact fucking opposite. Yeah. I'm going to watch the security tapes for weeks to see any weird suspicious behavior. Someone who's trying to establish a pattern of the couple, either of them, to try and figure out when's when you could snatch them. They didn't do that. I'm going to take a thumb and fingerprint and DNA evidence so that, like... At the very least, if someone's profile, fingerprints are completely different. Okay, it wasn't that person. That stuff's very good at. I'm not sure how to phrase this, but it's like confirming negatives versus confirming positives. That's what I would say. Like, if someone's DNA is completely different, then okay, fuck, it wasn't that person. Or if someone's fingerprint's completely different, fuck, it wasn't that person. But the fact that they just didn't do any of this shit, they just didn't collect any evidence, it's just insane.
Mean, again, even if, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, if you already have, let's say, all the family's DNA, then the family can use any DNA found at the crime scene as evidence of being, like their kids, for example, being like, well, these are my fucking parents, like, I was in their pool the day before, or whatever. Like, I'm just making something up. But the point is that they can be like, that doesn't mean I did it because this is my parents' house. And so, of course, my DNA is everywhere. Yeah. Right? Like, but the point is, like, you want to be looking for anything suspicious. Like, that's the point of collecting evidence. I don't know what kind of evidence collecting they did. And that's why, although the Reddit guy definitely sounded full of shit, it's not that far off, because I'm like, you know what? Maybe. Because it sounds like they didn't preserve anything, really. So.
Yeah, this seems like what the O.J. Simpson people wanted to happen. Because if you look in the specifics of the, like, how they discredit all of these people, it's like they found a photo one time of a guy not wearing a glove and picking up one of the thousands of pieces of evidence. And, like, that's how they really created the suspension of disbelief in O.J. Simpson's case. But these people didn't do shit. If they had, like, the murderer on camera, I feel like they could have gotten away with this.
Yeah, exactly, because they didn't even look at the footage.
There's nothing.
For months.
There's no footage. They're not looking for anything. They could just create all of this. How does the average police officer in Toronto make a 6-figure salary?
Oh, yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it?
I feel like I could do the job of 10 of them way 100%. Better. And
crazy. Like, I can't even, like, I did better investigative work. Like,
I just watched
this fucking Kevin Donovan guy did better investigative work.
Yeah, he can't fucking write an article to save his goddamn life. He works at the Star.
His writing is not great. Sorry, Kevin. It's just my opinion.
Kevin.
Like, great research, dude, but your writing is not great. You're an enthusiastic researcher,
but you write as well as I do, and I can
That's
barely
saying
hold.
A lot. That's saying a lot.
Hey, I can sort of hold a pencil, not the way people are meant to, and that's a fact.
Yeah, it's just very repetitive. I mean, the guy was probably trying to push it out super fast, and he's not entirely to blame. Like, who the fuck edited it? Like,
it could have been a self-published or a semi.
No, I think it's like an actual book, but
whatever. But
anyway, I'm just concluding this that. In short, cops will fuck up in any scenario, whether you're a billionaire or not, apparently.
Yep.
And they act like trash always. So fuck cops.
Yeah. These are the people that are supposed to be protected by police officers. That's the reason why they're put in power. They're there to protect the professional and managerial class of Canada and America. Like,
super rich white folks, like incredibly rich, connected politically. Like Justin Trudeau had dinner at their house, like lots of other politicians. And even they were not protected. So all I'm saying is, obviously, 100% Black Lives Matter and fuck cops, like, for sure. And like they screw people of color more than anyone else. But I say this because this is evidence that, wow, it really doesn't matter who the fuck you are.
It might seem insensitive that we're talking about these super rich white people that probably had every advantage. Like, well, why are you focusing on that? I'm sure hundreds of... But it's like, if these people can't get some type of relative justice with all of their power and clout, and basically the entire system being built for, like, what the fuck's the hope for anyone?
What's the hope for anyone? Exactly, because even, like, I also just want to emphasize that, like, even when they had a separate investigation, which they could pay for, like, nobody can. Mm-hmm. Very few families on this earth could pay for the support and extra investigation that they have, which is, again, evidence that the average person is zero protected by the cops. Zero. I grew up very well off, like middle upper class. Okay, yes, a person of colors, but like, you know, Iraqi, but like still, like nobody would be able to afford, like, if the cops, God forbid, if something happened to me or my family, I have zero confidence more than ever that it doesn't even matter how much money you throw at them. They just don't give a shit.
Yeah, they're lazy fucks. They want like I have a lot of cops in my extended family, like quite a few. My godfather is a cop. I've never met him in my life.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. I think him and my parents had a falling out at some point. but I got a bunch of cousins that are like probably in their mid to late 40s now that are all cops. I mean, their dad was a professional alcoholic who used to drive school buses drunk as fuck all the time. His 2 sons became cops.
Yeah, and I
Like,
mean, you just think about it.
just-
The kind of person that you have to be, and we've all
Yeah.
heard this recently, to be a cop, like, it's not to serve the people. Because if you wanted to serve people, you would be a doctor, you would be a nurse, you would
Yep.
be a firefighter, okay?
Yep.
Cops do jack shit except literally, like, the word is police people. Like,
Yeah.
it's to surveil, to control, to hurt, and to inflict power. Like, you
Yeah.
are a power hungry person to become a cop,
Yeah.
frankly, period.
Yeah, and this is probably advice that's almost never going to be useful because it's crisis advice, but I'm glad that I was able to think about this well enough at the time. So I had a roommate, and now I'm not going to mention any specifics, but he had a bit of a psychotic episode once. So the classic mental health check-in, right? And I mean, when I saw him, he was freaking out. We were all freaking out. It was fucking crazy. But like, when you do make 911 calls, if you don't specify specifically what you need, they send all 3, and the cops are usually the first ones to arrive.
But not always.
Not always.
Because I appreciate you saying that,
Yeah.
but as we saw with the Ijaz Chowdhury
Yep.
recently, his family explicitly were very explicit on the
I
phone
know.
of what they want. They didn't even call 911. They called the non-emergency line for a reason,
Yeah.
and they still sent the cops.
Yep.
And 3 of them. So anyway.
The point is, even if you do exactly what you're supposed to do, it might still end up working against you.
Anyway, the point is, abolish the police. I know
Yeah.
that we are talking. We just want to make it very, very clear that we understand that these people who are murdered are very privileged. But that's the point. That if even at least we can say in Canada, at least because this is where we live, which is supposedly a very progressive place. If you can't even get protected by cops when you're fucking filthy rich, then God help anybody else. God help the average person.
Yeah.
God help people of color. Like,
Yeah.
it's no surprise. Like, you see that and you're like, okay, I mean, short from going in and murdering Honey and Barry Sherman themselves, which they wouldn't do if it was a person of color, you know? So, yeah, I mean, also, just before I end this, I had planned this episode and done the research before all of this happened. So, and I wanted to get it out there. But I think it is very relevant because it's about cop misconduct.
All these stories have importance. This is just, I mean, the story is old as fucking policing, really.
Yeah.
There's 2 things I'm going to reference if you want to look at some really good content. So there's a podcast. It's by the guy who did the It Could Happen Here when how was Civil War.
Yeah.
But he's doing a series on this pod called Behind the Bastards, and he looks at the total
Is it
history.
called Behind the Bastards?
Yeah. If you find it, their latest season, and he goes into the history of the police, going back to the Greeks and the Romans, and the parallels between the Roman police and our modern police are horrifying. And it's a really good, just like, he has like 2 good guests. They're pretty funny. It's not the best podcast in the world, but it's meticulously well researched.
Right, and that's the important thing right now. The other thing, sorry.
The other thing I was going to say
ahead.
is, I think it's an article on Medium, and it's called Being a Bastard, and
I've read it.
Oh yeah, you read
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
That dude should be in fucking prison regardless of his tell-all shit. He should really be in prison. But it's just like a complete, like, you can't deny any of the shit of like cops clearly frame people with drugs. Like, it's
100%.
I mean, we all knew it, but if you read that article and you deny it from this point, fuck you.
Another thing, just on that note, so that's about experience of cops and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I would really like to recommend, because it's helped me learn a lot about this, because I've always been not a fan of policing and always been, like Black Lives Matter for a while, at least, since I was in university. But I definitely, I struggled with the idea of okay, if we abolish police, then what? Like, what do we do? Like, I had never I could not imagine. Like, I just didn't know what viable options would be. And this book called The End of Policing, I don't know if it's still, for a while, like when the protests started, I think it's Alex Vitale is his name. He is a professor in some university in New York. I forget where. He's in New York.
One of the many.
And you can, I think, get an ebook for free on Verso Books. I don't know if it's still free, but it was when I downloaded it. And yeah, so I guess we just have to be more imaginative because, to your point, Nathan, there was a time before cops and there will be a time after. And we just need to be more imaginative and not leave everything up to them because we can accomplish a lot.
Well, to get back to the friend of mine that had the mental episode, so try to say what you need specifically, and so cops don't arrive if you don't need cops. But I made it very much that it was like a health-based thing, and whoever the fuck took that 911 call did an amazing job because they sent 3 female paramedics. And they were very calm and chill. There was no force used. They just like slowly ushered him into the thing. He acted crazy as shit and kind of aggressive towards them. A cop might have grabbed him, fucked him up a little bit, but they were just very calm and chill. So that's an example of like, yeah, if it's a healthcare thing, maybe send paramedics or something.
But that's okay. We
also never introduce ourselves, but they knew. The people know who we are.
They know by now.
I'm Dolis.
If you don't, it's okay. It's not important.
If you don't know who I am, fuck yourself.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Pompous.
Yeah, I live in a basement.
Okay. All right. Stop.
No.
Okay. We're out. Bye. This guy's
we
nuts.
never even introduced the podcast.
Oh my God, we did it.
That's it. Bye.